there is two parts to my life. There's a before Simon and after Simon. And I think I had to sort of really dig deep and lean into my vulnerability and just think about, who I am as a person that's not a wife and not a mother and not part of a couple and all of that. But gradually I'm quite comfortable with my own company. I think I'm kind of strong enough to carry this.
Welcome to the Get Unstuck Fast Viscosity podcast, brought to you by VLM training and coaching specialists across the UK and Australia, hosted by me, Vicky Main. Are you a business owner, leader or executive? Have you ever felt stuck or disappointed where your life or business is heading? Do you ever feel overwhelmed, compare yourself to others, or feel like you're swimming in treacle at times? This podcast is here to help you get unstuck fast, from viscosity to achieving escape velocity and expanding your knowledge. Our guests on the show will share practical tips and real-life experience about how they got out of negative situations or circumstances to live their best life on their terms. We will be sharing real-life stories from real people doing some incredible things. Stay tuned for our next guest. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Get Unstuck Fast Viscosity podcast. I'm your host, Vicky Main, and today we have Karen Underhill, founder of Blue Meanies Arts and Events, in the studio. What better way to celebrate International Women's Day other than to have you here, Karen?
Thanks,
welcome.
Vicky. Thanks for having me.
It's great for you to be here, and you are one of the most inspirational and strong women I know. And it's a real pleasure for you to be here today and share your story and share your journey that you've been on. And we met actually a few years back when we were both teaching.
Yep.
You were teaching art and design.
That's
and I was teaching business, and we worked together. And then, can you tell our listeners about your career, your entrepreneurial journey, and what you're doing now?
Right, okay. I'll start with the creative part. So, Vicky, I moved down to Newcastle from a small town in rural Scotland in the Scottish borders with my partner, Simon. And there wasn't much going on when we were growing up in the small town at all. So it was really in pursuit of just kind of city life and to pursue our creative journey.
Sure.
So we followed the kind of traditional art school kind of format of lots of partying and lots of going out. And it was just a really exciting new adventure. Whiz forward, 3 years later, and the first thing that we wanted to do was just kind of join an art collective. So we moved into an artist studio in Charlotte Square with about 20 other artists at the time in the centre of Newcastle. And it was then really that we sort of realised, I would like to say we had a complete, definite plan of where we were going with our lives, but it was quite sketchy, to be fair.
Sure.
We had a vague idea that, we did want to work in creative industries and teach, because we've been very inspired by all the art teachers that we've met along our journey, journey of just discovering who you are as an artist. I would like to say it was a plan, but it wasn't really, we just kind of just had to get into the environment and experience that and meet all these exciting people. But very, very quickly, after joining the art collective, we realised that we could actually work freelance, and that's what we did. And I went on to do my PGC at the college because I was really wanted to teach. So that was kind of the end of 97.
Yeah.
So from there, I met a lovely theatre company that were in the same square as us, and I did the sensible job through kind of the term time season, which was, in lecturing. And then I learned to stilt walk with this theatre company and just travelled internationally all across the globe for, well over a decade, actually. So it was a real kind of, these things worked in tandem. And I had a great boss at the time, Vicky, and he was, he said, you can't work in creative industries without practising yourself. So my career actually started in performance,
right.
Fine art and performance, and then I went on to train to study media studies as well. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever think when you were growing up that you'd ever travel the world and doing performances on stilts? And
It was always one of them kind of pipe dreams, and I wasn't sure how I was going to do that. I think I always wanted to be a pop star.
Right.
And it was really the closest you could ever imagine to a rock and roll lifestyle. I'll leave that to the imagination. But, you know, we knew we'd made it, I think, when we were getting riders and tours of America and Poland and Holland and, you know, all over the globe. And it was very clear that this was theatre. You know, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was highbrow performances, not, you know, juggling with long. Because the thing is, with stilt walking, you know, that is your mobile stage when you're in street theatre. You know, you're just elevated above the crowd. So there's some amazing characters developed from all these endeavours.
I bet. I'm sure you're going to share more stories as we go through this podcast today.
Definitely.
I love the quote on your LinkedIn where you talk about art should be fun and challenging and that you believe creativity is essential to health and well-being. And you talk about how you want to inspire people to explore how they can use their creativity as a pathway to employment and also self-development. Can you share with us about your project that you have worked on in the last couple of years and how you support health and well-being since COVID?
Yeah, so I was picked up quite quickly when I did become self-employed by Newcastle City Council. So I left my full-time post in education. I took VR and founded Blue Meanies, and you know, I did workshops and things, and it wasn't quite taken off as I'd expected. So I just wasn't sure what my model was. I had some guidance, I think, from the City Council, you know, business team. But yeah, it was a bit sketchy. So, you know, I was very lucky that I was picked up by an artist in residency programme. And this, for me, just kind of helped me consolidate where I was going with, you know, this integrating my own teaching practice with my own creative practice. So, yeah, I worked with the City Council on various kind of commissions in really difficult communities, and I think it was always an interest of mine to embed health and well-being into the arts and this to be a cathartic process. So, yeah, I was really, really busy over the 5 years up until about COVID started. And we were undertaking an amazing project in the West End of Newcastle in Cruddas Park. And this is the bleakest possible environment that you can ever imagine. You know, just it was supposed to be an amazing kind of exciting, just centrifuge kind of activity with the shops and everything. And everything had kind of just fitted out. All the shops were closed and the flats were above the shopping centre. So I was doing a project called Viva la Cruddas, which was so fun. It was basically just creating a musical with the elder people that were isolated. So yeah, very social themes behind all the projects. You know, it was not art for art's sake, you know, deeper meanings. So obviously, as we know, COVID, you know, struck in March 2020. And we sent everybody back to their houses. And I think it was probably the 23rd of March when we had the announcements really from Boris that this was happening. You know, everything was shutting down. So all my work was cancelled, Vicky, all my workshops, all the projects. And yeah, we thought, how are we going to do this? You know, so thinking on my feet, I just said, well, we'll try and do as much as we can across the internet, and we'll drop off creative parks, and we'll just try and carry on. So I've got my head around that bit, Vicky, and it was all going to be fine. Set up the kids for homeschooling, did the rainbows, did all of that. And my husband was working full time in education as well, so he'd come home and he just wasn't well that day at all. Vicky was, So we rang to get some health advice, and to cut the long story short, I mean, the new project that I'm working on, it was really just in response to personal tragedy, you know.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. So Simon died very suddenly on the 30th of March, and I wasn't able to go. I wasn't able to see him. I wasn't able to have the funeral, and the children were obviously being homeschooled. So it was just a desperate time. I'd lost all my work. We were in the middle of moving because we bought a plot, we had a new house. This was our future. We were going to be working together on the workshop. So, you know, basically everything, it was like a bomb blast in our lives, this situation. And I didn't know how I was going to recover from it at all, Vicky.
Yeah.
And I have an autistic son, and there was lots to juggle. So there was no support network. So, you know, me being me, I just had to try and find a silver lining in all of this. And I reached out to an online group that was widows that were trying to raise young children as well, you know, that had just been widowed during the pandemic. So yeah, me being me, you know, the natural born leader, I suggested that we do creative activities across the internet online, and I was keeping my online workshops going as much as I could. Everyone knows their whole work patterns had to change, but obviously we had a bereavement in the middle of this as well.
Yeah.
The love of my life for 33 years. So it was a radical kind of, where are we? You know, what's going on here? And I think, you know, I connected with this group really to offer support as much as gain support. And then I was talking with Alison Flanagan-Wood from the City Council, who is part, you know, the artist in residency officer. Officer sounds so official, doesn't it? But she was, that's her job title. And I said, you know, I feel I've got a model here. That people are saying to me that they need to be heard here. These are awful circumstances, and I would like to find some funding just to, when we begin to open up, to find a way to reach out to everyone that's been bereaved during COVID, particularly interested in, you know, young spouses that have lost their partner, because it's another level, I think, when you're having to, you know, homeschool and do all of that. So yeah, we just... You know, it's a bit of a blur because I was grieving at the time, still grieving. You know, we're up to 3 years now. But I just did a rationale. I wrote what I wanted to do. I priced it up and got a significant amount of funding from the COVID Response Fund and just came up with this lovely title called Beyond the Waves. Mm-hmm. So I've really thrown myself into this project now. So, yeah, the waves obviously being the waves of COVID and the waves of grief. And we've got a great partner on board, Marie Curie Bereavement Services, to come in because that was way out of my professional remit.
Yeah.
So we gradually and slowly but surely, we were able to use all the libraries, and we linked into the death positive movement there. We were able to do that. We were in a huge room with all of the masks on, not the way I work at all.
No.
And we just started with really low-key art activities, just as a kind of buffer, so that we weren't having the intense kind of face-to-face thing. It weren't really supposed to be fantastic artworks, just, you know, a catalyst to kind of tease out these kind of conversations.
Yeah.
And we had our bereavement support worker there alongside us from Marie Curie, and we just realised we had a beautiful thing. So it's just been developing, and more money's, you know, coming in from different funds. I had a lady called Ruth Raynor, who was one of the mums who came and, you know, brought parcels to the door. And, you know, all the mums rallied round us at a time that was really difficult. And then I didn't know her very well, and she works at the university as a researcher.
Sure.
And she just she says, I'm really interested in the project. I'd like to pick this up within my university and research work. So it's kind of going off in so many different avenues now. And I would say I'm exploring this far more than any of the other projects, because I think there's a lot of longevity in this project.
Sure.
And I think there's a lot of voices that are still waiting to be heard.
Sure. And, you know, COVID was bad enough for us all in different ways. I mean, I think Australia, whilst there was a lot of lockdowns, I mean, when I was in Perth in Western Australia at the time during COVID, and it was, I don't think the UK had it worse at the time. In terms of the lockdown, there was a longer period of lockdown. But for you to tragically lose your husband like that so quickly, and he was was he 40?
Just in his late 40s.
Late 40, 49. Yep. And he actually didn't die from COVID, did he?
No, it was a massive brain hemorrhage, but it was sort of misdiagnosed. And I think this is what I'm hearing every now and then from everyone. Well, often actually, just that there was other illnesses, going on. The rest of the world was going on, but of course, COVID was really interesting and absolutely on everyone's mind. But, people did die because they were missing appointments or they were misdiagnosed.
Sure.
So I have incredible guilt because I didn't tell them to go to the doctors but you couldn't get appointments at that time. It was starting, the whole infrastructure of the UK was just closed
Plus
down.
he was, I know we've talked in detail about this, he was actually displaying symptoms of some COVID symptoms. Yeah. So it was, I mean, how can you diagnose somebody over the telephone? And, at the time there was a pandemic. And so I think it's about the way you've actually got through that experience, which is tragic and so words can't actually describe what it must have been for, and I think how
it's been
as a
quite
strong
hard
woman,
actually to recap it because I think I just reacted and I am a very strong person and I do think on my feet and I'm a natural leader and how we can turn I could only turn this tragedy into a positive. And of course, the first thing is just connecting with others so that you don't feel isolated.
Yeah.
And that was really important. And I felt at times like I was an avatar, like everyone, because you're just communicating with people across Zooms and just finding a way to deliver your services. I never ever imagined I was going to be, running bereavement workshops or a bereavement project.
How could you?
Well, I've done lots, Vicky. I mean, I've undertaken lots with the City Council Arts Development Team. It's been drug and alcohol, it's been social isolation, bringing communities together and things like that. But nothing really where you're actually living the experience alongside delivering it. So I think Alison Flanagan Wood was quite just keen to make sure that I was protected as you go along as well. So... Are you all right? So she was my mentor really through that process. Yeah.
And I know you mentioned that during that time, you single-handedly, you went and did a project in your garden at that time as a way of, I guess, coping with the horrific time that you were going through. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
So the children were all being homeschooled. I've got a fantastic open plan house, that Simon and I gutted basically and did all the work to. But of course, it's really hard. We had cabin fever. We're all on top of each other trying and live, me trying to salvage the business, trying to save it. So I had a little spot just in the garden and I thought, one of our ideas when we got to the new build was to build a workshop. And I thought, well, yeah, I could do it up there. And I think it was just the energy and going through the rhythms of grief. That one minute you're very energetic and you're not, and then the next minute, you just sleep for hours. So I think I excavated a full skip's worth of soil and decided that I was going to build a shed, and it was really hard to get wood at the time, and just built my little invention, Mad Professor's invention shed, so that I could continue making my work and run my Zooms through it, so that it wasn't in your kitchen because... I didn't want that vibe. This was from my crazy mad invention shed. And it was I got the fire on, I put a stove in, I built it, I had buntings, and it was a project, So that was lovely. And it just meant that I could keep sort of work and family life separate.
Yeah.
And, no sooner did you plan a lovely program of kind of workshops and then we were back in again. It was lockdown was there and the libraries were far more open than anywhere and you had to mask up. But I was ever so glad the libraries picked us up. But we found a way when it was at the height of lockdown actually, because we went to the beach and I delivered sessions there and we just walked and spoke, gathered sea glass, and then these beautiful works just were naturally kind of happening. Yeah. And then as people were healing and they stayed longer on the project, they've become more interested in being an artist and contributing to collaborative works. Yeah. And So we've got a series of memorial works just all over at the moment. We've got a memorial wall that we've put together with all the works digitally. I don't like the word memorial. We decided that it was too dead, actually. It was a living memorial.
Yeah.
And we were living through this next chapter. So that is kind of it, the next chapter.
Yeah. I find it just so incredibly inspiring that, you know, through all of everything that you've shared, and, you know, today we're scratching the surface really of how,
the surface.
You know, that grief. And I know you'd sort of said you were, you know, digging bare soil with your bare hands and soil and digging and through the night, you know, some nights, and you'd said your neighbours must have thought, you know, what's going on there. But the grief does do different things. And it's, for you, that was
cathartic.
Yeah. But, you know, I think from this tragedy, you've actually, you're helping and inspiring so many other people who are walking that journey with you as well, or have been in the past. So I think it's such incredible work that you're doing, and the fact that you brought in your art and performance as well. It's that's why I couldn't wish for a more stronger and inspiring woman to be on the show today for International Women's Day. And I think, you know, how are you going to celebrate today, International Women's Day, and how are you going to celebrate your success and your wins, and, you know, how important is it to you?
Well, it is important, and I think it was always embedded with all the residences or projects that we did. We've always celebrated International Women's Day. But what I've said to my Beyond the Waves group, we can meet at the library, and I'd like people just to bring in someone that's inspired them from their past, so someone that's past, and someone that inspires them now. And we've been looking at sand mandalas, obviously, because everything's kind of sand and sea related, and within that kind of semantic kind of field of lots of longevity in the project with the waves kind of title. So we've got some rocks that we've gathered from the beach, and we're just going to do some mindful activities. We're going to gift one to someone that is very inspiring, that's alive, that's a strong female, and we're going to, you know, make a memorial work. I don't like that word, but memorial work for someone that's passed.
And that's wonderful that you're doing that. And have you ever faced gender disparity, and how did you create positive change for yourself?
I've always worked in a field, you know, in the technical, in the field of technology, and I think I have faced it, and I don't tolerate it, you know, at all. And I think this has been instilled really because I was raised by two very strong women. My mum was a solo parent. My dad just up sticks and left us, you know, when I was 4. So I had my grandma and my mum raising me, you know, in a small town in Scotland where nobody divorced then. It was very unheard of in, you know, the late 70s. So yeah, I've always had strong women around. I've got that mindset already, so that's kind of hardwired in. And I just quickly nip things in the bud. I have experienced inequality. I think when you have a baby, you go back to workspace. You know, there's this kind of expectation that you got your career and your aspirations are going to be on the back burner. And, you know, you've got to try all that much harder, haven't you, when you come back after a baby. And, you know, me as a mother, I've faced a lot of inequality just for my son. You know, it's not about males and females as such. It's about everyone. It's about our perceptions of, And I think, I just think, for me, you know, it's just kind of nipping it all in the bud and just being very assertive straight away that you're not going to tolerate this. So fortunately, no, I've managed to get to where I have without a lot of kind of prejudice or inequality.
Right.
But that's been hardwired in, I think. Yeah,
no, that's fantastic and great you sharing the story about your mum, and I'm sure she'd be incredibly proud of you now of what you're doing as well. And because you actually, your mum died like when you were quite
suddenly, young. Very, that was a sudden death as well, and that was and Simon was obviously by my side, and we didn't have any kind of restrictions to funerals or anything, so you get that closure, don't you? But I think losing your mum and losing your spouse is generally, well considered to be up there, you know, as very, very intense grief, the sort of grief that you feel with all your body.
Yeah.
So I lost her very young, and I miss her. And I lost my dad 6 months before Simon died, and that was an estranged relationship. So a lot of head spaces to go through, in 2020. Yeah.
And have you got any advice that you would give listeners who are feeling a bit stuck?
Mm-hmm.
Feeling a bit stuck at the moment, and they have got challenges, whatever they may be? What would be the greatest advice for you that would help them to maybe get unstuck from wherever they are and what they're going through to where they want to be? What would be the biggest piece of advice you could give those people, our listeners today?
Well, I think people get stuck for various reasons. It can be a lack of ideas, a lack of motivation and direction. It might be following a health scare, or recovering, or following a bereavement. I think obviously you've got to get them professional services in for things like health and bereavement. Yeah. That's not going to just...
No.
Mindset's not going to help with that. And I think you just have to kind of lean into that. For me, I found just surrounding myself with lots of positive people around, because, you become who you hang around with, don't you? Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. And I think I didn't know how to kind of shape and form and create the content really for Beyond the Waves. I just knew what it felt like, and who needed it. So I think obviously, I just pulled in as many other people within my field as well to help with that content. So that gave it a bit of direction and, we could do this, and how are we going to do, what materials are we going to use? So it's just surrounding yourself with your creative peers, or whatever field you're in. I think just surrounding yourself with, the people that are doing it that you aspire to.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And you strike me as someone who likes collaboration and bringing people together and connecting people and for a greater cause.
Yeah.
So
I think that is obviously, my advice, if I've got any advice, is just if you are feeling stuck, I think it's just, you've got to kind of surround yourself with positive people, and maybe just identify your core values and everything, that the heartbeat behind what you do, the why, isn't it? And then find out how to do that. You've obviously got to just... Knowledge is everything. Trying to get as much knowledge about whatever area you're hoping to develop or get yourself unstuck out of, and see how others have done it. Positivity.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know that was probably quite, there's a lot of stuff to unpack there, and I think it's you've been through so much. But let's talk a bit about your business and what you're doing. You've had a very successful teaching career, and you've helped many students over the years. But you've also been able to have that creative outlet and work in industry and working for yourself. Tell us a bit about, in terms of your journey, were there any times that scared you during that journey? Or I know you've got a few funny stories. So was there any times that you were a little bit scared, and what happened there?
Would I say I'm fearless? I don't know. I think recently, obviously there's two parts to my life. There's the before Simon and after, obviously.
Yeah.
And the fearlessness probably came from my stilt walking days. I think, just
now, these weren't small stilts, by the way. These were like, you're not talking like half a metre. These were 2 metre stilts that you were walking on in crowds of people. Is that right?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Across the world.
Yeah, just to paint a picture, I had to learn aerial. So they had a huge helium balloon, and they were looking for volunteers to kind of be a white witch to hang from this helium balloon, Vicky. I'll do it.
And where was this? Where was this?
This
location?
was in Stockton, and this was in Camden.
In London,
yeah. But there was always a heavy wind factor to this, because the director, Paul, he had to learn all about this. Amazing how he just researched everything. So if you can imagine, it's a helium balloon that you fill, and then there's a character in aerial just hanging beneath it. So she was a white witch, and she was anchored by 2 men on either side to stop it blowing away. So I had the 2 gyms anchoring me down on this kind of wire. But you couldn't perform it if it was windy. So we had to get the windometer out and just check. And there I was in Camden. We're either ready to go or we're doing a test run with it. and this massive gust of wind. I think we were near the tube station or something, or the train station. And this massive gust of wind came and just blew me into the railings, and I'd ripped all my dress, and just absolutely crazy. Yeah, I've done some mad things. Some completely mad. Just about saying yes to life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely just about saying yes to life.
Yeah. And you used to be, now, we were chatting offline, and you used to be in a band as well, didn't you? And it's I know you and Simon in the younger years were in bands, in a punk band.
That's how we met, yeah. And it was lots of kind of Iggy Pop covers, and I was just a singer then, and I learned the guitar self-taught.
By the way, she's not just a singer. She wasn't just a singer. You're actually a fantastic singer, and I've heard you sing, and maybe you'll break out in a song halfway through this.
Yeah. I think I'd feel better singing my way through life.
Yeah.
I used to think, that's the way to live life, is sing and dance your way through life, and that energy just kind of stays with me, I think, from my youth. I've always been a performer, and I'm actually an introvert, Vicky, really.
Right.
To be honest.
Often a lot of people are.
Yeah. But I met Simon at 17, so we moved in together. I'd been living on my own since I was 16, fiercely independent. Just,
right.
Yeah. So when I realised my mum was all right, she got a new job in a new town. I was living on my own from my 16th birthday. So I guess to Simon, I was just like this mature, I was a year older, mature kind of, I led him a bit astray, I think. I think I was really wild and a bit rebellious.
Well, there's no social media back in the 70s and the 80s, so you're all good.
Well, yeah, it was proper, printed out photographs that I show the children now, and they're just like, did you really walk about like that?
Oh. Yeah. So what does the future hold for you and your business? Now, sing it to me.
Sing it to me. Oh my goodness.
Go on. No, you're not going to sing it.
I might be, my dancing days might be over now.
Right.
So I think I've got some inner depth from what's happened. And I think with such a life-changing experience, I know now that I just want to become more involved in the research side of things. So I'm really happy that the university have picked up the project.
Great. Which one's that? Is that?
Newcastle University, yeah. So Ruth Raynor was one of the mums that helped, when Simon died. And I got to know her, and she's a researcher. She's also a theatre maker. I'm going to say my dancing days are over, but, we've got this very serious theme that we're obviously exploring, but we want to put it together as a performance. And there has to be humour in there as well, because some of the stories, they are so intense, Vicky, that all you can do is burst out laughing, not crying. You have a good laugh in the group. It's not all heavy and intense.
Yeah.
So we're going to work from this data, these stories with a soul, as Brené Brown describes them. Because she's been a huge inspiration, actually, Brené Brown. Just kind of, the power of vulnerability has run through this project,
Wow.
But of course, she presents that in a very humorous way.
Yeah.
And you would like her, because I know you've done a bit of stand-up, but she's looking
comedy.
At something like vulnerability and just adding humour in there.
Well, I've got my next one in 2 weeks at the Comedy Store in London, so that'll be good fun. You should come down. Be good fun. Come down for the day.
It's so brave, honestly. But
it's a bit scary as well. But speaking of bravery, and I'm curious, what are you fearful of? Because some people are afraid of or fearful of, rejection or failure, or what would be, you strike me as someone who's not really fearful of anything, but what are you fearful of?
Well, I'll always have a go. I'll always say yes to life, I think. But I think there is two parts to my life. There's a before Simon and after Simon. And I think I had to sort of really, really dig deep and lean into my vulnerability and just think about, who I am as a person that's not a wife and not a mother and not part of a couple and all of that. So that was hard. And I think obviously being alone, I think is a big fear for me, a big genuine fear. But gradually I'm quite comfortable with my own company. I think I'm kind of strong enough to carry this. And I was worried that because we'd always done everything all together, Simon and I, that I would be enough. And I think Brené Brown again talks about you are enough. You absolutely are enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a journey for me, and I'm sure I will discover more fears and lots of kind of enlightened experiences along the way. But I'm fearful of kind of just being ordinary and overlooked. And,
Right.
my friends assure me there's no danger of that.
No, not at all. Not
I'm probably
at all, for
more
sure.
than enough for most people.
It's funny you say that about the whole being alone and being, comfortable in your own company as well, because I know when I was single parent in Australia living, and I used to take myself off to the Gold Cinema Lounge. And when I didn't have the children, they were at their dad's house, I would go off on my own and take myself out on a date on my own and sit there in the Gold Cinema Lounge, and I'd order a little pizza and I'd have a glass of wine, and I'd just feel like, I'd be like, well, I am enough. And I actually enjoyed going out for a date, my own company. And the first time I did it, it was so liberating because I was always, I never really went to the cinema on my own, but I went once and I was like, I absolutely love this. And it was a very liberating experience to go, you know what? And I don't feel bothered about going and having lunch on my own in a restaurant if I needed to or whatever. You just do it. But I do think that there's a lot of people out there who probably would feel very uncomfortable about going to the cinema on their own and never mind, that whole fear. So it's something that I can totally resonate with that side. But I think once you start and get comfortable with, and I think for me, COVID, I love to be around others.
Yeah.
But actually what I loved...
Enjoy your solitude.
Enjoying solitude. And I think for me, having my 2 dogs in Australia and being there, like I would get to the stage where I actually didn't enjoy, after COVID happened, I didn't actually enjoy going out and networking as much because being in a room full of people used to exhaust me. So I think as I've grown up, I used to be very introvert, and as I've grown up, I became quite extrovert and taught myself to be extrovert. But actually, in reality, I'm probably still introvert in that way, and I prefer one-on-one company, and and I love reading on my own, and I actually enjoy spending time on my own.
There is something about performers, that you put yourself out there so much that you're just enjoying your company, your own company. You enjoy that kind of time to yourself, and a creative person as well. Your head's kind of bustling with ideas all that time. And I just need silence sometimes. Yeah. Because my brain never stops. I don't sleep very much.
No.
I'm like Margaret Thatcher, but functioning about 3 hours a night. I've got
3 hours?
Lots of energy.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe not function is the word, but we kind of get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that time to myself, when I'm not having to engage with all this external stimulus, because, I'm going through a process. We have autism in the family as well. And, just realising, my scores were way off the scale for ADHD as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the GP said you wanted to get tested. So, yeah, that was another thing to find out about myself as well as everything else going on. So, but I've managed to apply that into a creative, discipline that works really well for me. And it's a superpower, I think. Yeah. But I do need them quiet times.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I think it's not a meltdown or a breakdown. It's just a bit of a recovery time for the busyness of life as well.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I'm curious, along the way, along your journey, have you ever had a mentor or a coach who's helped you and supported you through these times?
Yeah, I mean, I offer mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
I have a student that works with me every year from the university. And my mentor, I think, has been Ali Flanagan-Wood for the arts development team, because I have a scattergun approach to everything I start, I go out the way with ideas and I need to be reined in. I find it really hard to be reined in. And it's great to have a scattergun approach, but you have to kind of have a linear approach somewhere along. I'm a lateral thinker, I would say. Yeah. So it's been great to have Ali alongside me on, the Waves project. Yeah, because obviously she helped me initiate that and helped me find the funding. It's something I would definitely like to consider for the next phase of the project. I think I need probably a little bit more professional help around my own bereavement, because things are cropping up now because, you know, as we've explored with all the data that we've gathered, grieving has been very delayed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've got some complicated grief. I think I need to explore that. I've started a music therapy course for myself, which has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Because after Simon died, with all the background with us for music, I couldn't listen to music for about a year, Vicky.
Yeah.
I couldn't even put the TV on. And the only way I was connecting with the outside world was just from my phone with the Guardian. Just to find out where we were with COVID, and obviously, you know, trying to get the sessions up and running, I had to know what the regulations were and all of this, what was being, you know, because it was regional lockdowns as well. So, but I couldn't listen to the media at all, you know, that kind of sensational, more deaths today. It was just wrong. It was just, really, there should have been a public health warning around to that, because people alone that are isolated, and then it's frightening. But I couldn't even put the radio on, Vicky. I listened to Radio 6, and it was just because it takes you to a place, I think, music, that is, well, it was Simon and our time, you know, it just takes me back to all these memories. So the music therapy she's been, I would call her a mentor. Yeah, because I didn't know what I was going to do. You know, I went in for 6 sessions, and it was offered through Marie Curie. So we were in doing the art stuff, and then, you know, the music therapist was in doing the music. I said, I would really like to take part in this. I'd like to be a participant. Would you let me? And they said, yeah, absolutely. And we just did these kind of ensemble improvisations where you're trying to find equivalents for your emotions in the instruments you've got. So I was playing the violin, having never really played the violin, and a xylophone, and I think, that's about as close as mentorship as I've had, you know, on this journey with the waves. But I think that's definitely something I need. Yeah. Just to give me a bit more clear direction. Yeah.
And, you know, it's, again, you talk about vulnerability and the fact that you're sharing that, you're still on that process, and you know, being vulnerable and sharing that, because we all, I'm sure all our listeners out there, you know, there's things that they might want to explore themselves and get some support in different areas. But I think through music is something that is helping you heal as well, which is a really cathartic process as well. And
yeah, I mean, you can't really underestimate the power of creativity as a healing tool, healing media. I think you come in with a lot of baggage sometimes. A lot of people come and say, I'm not arty, or I'm not, you know, I'm not creative, because I have preconceived kind of ideas about what that involves. It's either something that you did at school, you know, when you were a child, and it should be a bit childlike, or it's something that's completely highbrow and out of their reach. And of course, there's a massive value of exploring feelings and just that mindful state of working through something that's yours, and then showing it off at the end, which is obviously very great for your self-esteem, isn't it?
Fantastic. Well, Karen, thank you so much for joining me today in the podcasting studio. And I wish you so much success in the future. And you've been through an incredible amount of things, and which the average human might not have gone through, but you've come out the other end. Yeah, you have. And I think, is there anything finally you want to share with listeners who maybe are going through some challenges, and anything else you want to add?
I think, I think the challenges, as I say, if it's health related or mental health related, it's just to seek that professional advice. But you absolutely just must connect with others, no matter how grim things feel. My children give me a bit of hope every day, you know, to see what they do. Yeah, we're a neurodiverse family, so I think we're processing everything a little bit different as well. So, yeah, just connecting with your tribe, I think, is the thing, the message really coming through here. And you can overcome I think you can overcome any challenge. It just takes time. I know your podcast's about kind of getting unstuck fast, but that can be fast. And, it's probably just methodical. It's just working out where you are within, your process of feeling unstuck, or what challenge you're facing, and just identifying your core values in life and surrounding yourself by the people that really are going to help you get there.
Sure.
Get rid of negativity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I'm going to take you out for lunch now, because let's go and have some lunch and celebrate all your achievements, and let's celebrate International Women's Day as strong women that we are. And looking forward to seeing what you do next. Where can people contact you if they want to reach out? On your LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah. I've got a Facebook page, Blue Meanies Art and Events. Yeah. My other pseudonym is Karen Kitch. Yeah. So that was from my days, in equity. So Karen Kitch. I can put all the socials on the end of this.
We'll plug them as well on there.
I wanted to say a little bit about maybe people having a look at the memorial wall.
Yeah, sure.
So that you can scan in a QR code for that. Yeah. And just see a little bit. Yeah, a bit more.
We can add that on the link as well at the end of the podcast as well.
Yeah, and I must just quickly say that I've been working with a woman called Jessie Komes, and she's a psychologist, and she wants to get all these difficult feelings out of the body, out of the head and into the body. So she's been doing some wonderful workshops with us at the coast, and this has helped shape and form the research, performance research side of things. So I must shout out to Jessie there, as well as Ruth, Raynor from the university. I'm just really excited about where it's going, and it's amazing that you can pull something so positive out of tragic situations.
Yeah, it's an inspiring story for us all.
Oh,
thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.